Hello everyone. How are you doing? And welcome to the Credit Laboratories channel. Today, we're going to be discussing everything related to third-party debt collections. When you should pay them, how you should pay them, or should you even be paying them at all? If you have any questions related to third-party debt collections or any collections on your credit report that you don't know how to handle, you're going to want to stay around this entire video all the way to the end, because by the time you finish this video, you're going to be an expert on third-party collections and you're going to know exactly what to do to get them off of your credit reports. My name is Jennifer Campbell. I am a credit educator, a credit specialist, a credit strategist, however you would like to phrase it. If it has anything to do with credit, I love it. So it has become my new personal goal to spread as much knowledge and information on credit as I possibly can. All the information that I have absorbed and learned these last 4 or 5 years, I would like to share it with my community and the people around me. So if this is your first time on the channel, welcome, and don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and if you find any educational value in this video at all, don't forget to share it for me. With no further ado, you guys, let's get right into it. Okay, the $1,000,000 question. Should you pay collections? Okay, this is a very controversial answer, but I'm fixing to just give you the straight facts. Number one, before you pay any collection, I suggest requesting verification or validation directly from the third-party debt collector. Sometimes when you do that, the third-party debt collector will come back and let you know, hey, we're no longer collecting on this debt. Your debt was given back, to the original creditor, and all efforts will stop. Okay, that's what you want. You don't want to have to owe them anything. Now, that does not mean that because it's a misconception. So I want to clear this up before I go any further. When a collection is deleted from your credit reports, if that collection is still inside of the statute of limitations, you are still legally responsible for that account if they try to sue you and get a judgment against you. But should you pay them? Before you pay them, you need to make sure that it is your collection that is reporting accurately, and that third-party collection agency has the power to collect on that debt in your state, and if the original creditor actually sold that debt to that company. You want to make sure that the company or the third-party collection agency that you are paying has ownership of the account. I've talked to people before who've paid third-party debt collections for the same account more than once. They've paid different debt collectors, all because they didn't request validation or verification. But that does not mean that I'm saying you should not pay collections either, because if the debt is yours and if the debt is reporting correctly and it is still inside the statute of limitations, you should pay the debt. Now, the statute of limitations it can help determine how you negotiate if you have to pay a third-party collection agency. Say the account that you have is a credit card account. And in my state, with open-ended accounts, the statute of limitation is going to be 3 years. So say if the last time I made a payment on that account was 3.5 years ago, that means that credit card account, that's a collection account now. That means that it's outside of the statute of limitations in my state. So say if I requested validation directly from the third-party collection agency about that account, and instead of them giving the debt back or discontinuing, instead of them discontinuing their collection efforts, they still try to collect on the debt. If it's outside of the statute of limitations, they can't sue you. That means you don't have to pay the debt. So if you don't pay the debt will stay on your credit reports for the next 7 years if you can't get it removed, because even though the debt is outside of the statute of limitations, it is still, or it may still be in the reporting time period. So say if the credit card account is the 3.5 years old and it's reporting on your credit report with a balance and you can't get it to come off. Yes, I would suggest making a settlement. But the thing is, if that account is outside of the statute of limitations, you have a better chance at making a settlement that's very low because they can no longer sue you. So you have the upper hand in that situation. And then I would suggest making that payment because you won't have to worry about that again. You won't have to worry about that collection company trying to sell it to another debt collector or something like that. So before you pay a collection, always ask for verification or validation. Now, another example I'm going to say, if you are in the process of purchasing a home and your lender tells you that you need that debt paid or removed from your credit report, I don't suggest sending validation then. If you have the money and you know that the account is yours, even if it's inside or outside of the statute of limitations, I would go ahead and I would pay that debt because not paying it will only stop you from being able to get your home. So then I would immediately pay that third party collection because within 30 days, it should, if it's not deleted, because let me say this, just because you pay a collection does not mean that it will be deleted from your credit reports, but it will report with a $0 balance. If a collection is reporting on your credit report with a $0 balance, it does negatively impact you because it is showing that you've had a collection in the past. But if you go on myfico.com and you look on their website, you will see where they say that a collection under $100 is not factored into your credit score. I'm going to try to put that right here. So once you pay it, even if it's not deleted, it will report with a $0 balance. The collection will not be factored into your credit score. So should you pay collections? That's going to depend on your personal situation, what you are trying to do, if the account is inside or outside of the statute of limitations, or if you can make a settlement. Also, you guys, I also suggest before paying a collection, Google the third party collection agency. Get a little bit of history about them. Figure out if they're legit. Figure out if they're actually a debt buyer or just a collection company collecting on behalf of the original creditor, because that will also determine how you handle the account. If it is a debt buyer, that means that the original creditor is giving up hope. They sold that account to another entity. That entity now has ownership of that account. So the original creditor, they have nothing else to do with that account. They're going to direct you to the third party debt buyer that they sold your debt to. And that is the person that you're going to have to deal with when it comes to paying your debt. If the collection company that is trying to collect on your debt is not a debt buyer, but say it can be an internal collection company. If they have not purchased your debt from the original creditor, that means they're collecting on behalf of the original creditor, which means that the original creditor still owns your debt. It's one company that I know of, and that is IC Systems. They are not a debt buyer. They are a third-party collection agency. And what they do is they collect for the original creditor. If that is the case, I suggest asking or requesting the third-party collection agency to return your debt back to the original creditor. You can also ask the original creditor to get the debt back since they still own the debt. I would also try paying the original creditor since they still own the debt. So before you pay a collection, send that validation or verification. Check your statute of limitations and do your research on the third party collection agency. Check and see what type of company they are. Check and see if they're legit. Another thing that I do is I check my state's Secretary of State's website to make sure that the company that's trying to collect the debt can legally collect debt in my state. Do your homework. Do your checkup on them just like they're going to be checking up on you. So ask for verification and validation. Check your statute of limitations. Do your research on the collection company. Determine what type of company they are. Determine if they are a debt buyer or a collection company. If they are just a collection company, a third-party collection company, collecting on behalf of the original creditor, try to get the original creditor to get your debt back, or try to make a settlement arrangement with the original creditor. If you pay the original creditor, the third-party debt collector has to come off of your credit report, you guys. Don't pay them if it's not a debt buyer, or try not to pay them. Try to contact the original creditor and pay the original creditor. Now, understand, if it was sold to a company that purchases debt, that's not going to work. If the company purchases debt, that means that the original creditor has sold your account. They're done with it. They've given ownership away. So that won't work with that kind of collection or that kind of debt collector, the debt buyer. It will not work with a debt buyer. But if it's a third-party collection agency collecting on behalf of the original creditor, you can try to pay the original creditor. Paying the original creditor gets rid of the third-party collection agency. In my opinion, third-party collection agencies who are collecting on behalf of the original creditor, I don't feel like they should be able to report the account on your credit reports because they don't have ownership of the account. But that's just how I feel, and I could be looking at it wrong, you guys, because I don't know everything. I'm learning every day as well. I'm still learning about credit just like everybody else. But that's just my personal take on that. So should you pay collections? Check your statute of limitations first, you guys. Ask for that validation. Figure out who you're dealing with, what type of company you're dealing with, and how to handle it. And if the debt is yours and you know the debt is yours, it's okay. If it's inside or outside the statute of limitation, you should know if you should be paying it now. If you don't know, if I lost you anywhere along the way, ask me any questions that you would like in the comments. I try to answer each and every comment that I get. I try to respond back. So if you have a question about should you be paying them, should you pay collections, if I didn't answer that with this first set of information, let me know in the comments. Ask whatever question you would like to, because I want to make sure that you understand this. Okay, now that we've discussed should you be paying collections, we're going to be discussing how you should be paying collections. How to pay third-party debt collections. Okay, we've already discussed should you be paying them. So let's talk about how you should be paying them. Let's say that you determine that the account is yours and the company has given you valid validation. And we're going to discuss valid validation when I finish this, because you need to know what is considered valid validation from a third-party collection agency. But just say that you've requested your validation, they've provided you with validation, and the account is yours, and you decide to pay the account. You've already worked out your settlement, so you've already did all that, and you already determined that the debt is yours. I would not suggest paying with a debit card or ACH through your bank by providing your routing number and account number. I would only pay by money order. And before I paid by money order, I would make sure that I got all of our agreement terms. Whatever your settlement terms were, whether it was pay for delete or just a $0 balance, you need to get that in writing so that you can keep it for your records, so that you'll have proof that you took care of that debt. Make sure you get it in writing first. I have clients or potential clients or different people who have called us requesting information or looking for information, and they have actually paid the debt off with one debt collector, and another debt collector comes after them for the same debt. So always get your information in writing. And as I stated before, send a money order. I have read and watched videos in places where people have put that if you make a settlement, to write on the back of your instrument, which is going to be your money order, right on the back of it stating that cashing this instrument, you are agreeing to remove the account from my credit reports or something of that nature. I can't remember the exact terminology, but it's something of that nature. They say that you can write that on the back of your instrument that you use to pay. And so if you're going to be paying your third-party collections, you've already determined that, it's yours, it's valid and everything. Make sure you send a money order. No debit card, no access to your personal checking account. Do not give anyone access to that. What is considered validation? Okay, let's talk about it. When you request validation directly from a third-party collection agency, when they validate the account, they have to tell you the person's name who's trying to collect on the debt, the name and address of the original creditor, the balance on the account. They have to put a couple statements on there. I think one of the statements says that they have to add a statement that says that if you do not respond within 30 days, that the company or the collection agency will take that as accepting, or they will take that as ownership of the account. So that's why you also need to respond to any third-party debt collection letters or collection letters that you get in the mail. Don't just ball those up and throw those in the garbage can. I'm going to need you to send them a validation letter. Request a validation. Do all those things we talked about first. Should you pay a collection agency, take all of those steps. Do those same things when you receive what they call a dunning letter. Because that's what that is. Those letters that you get in the mail, those are going to be called dunning letters. When you get those, always respond to them. Never ignore them. Because when you ignore them, that's when they can turn into judgments. So we always want to respond to those as well. But with validation, the name of the person trying to collect on the debt, the original creditor's name and address, the amount on the amount of the debt, a statement that notifies you that if you don't respond back, that they will accept that the collection agency will accept that as ownership of the account. It is a couple of other statements that's in there as well, but you can check those out at Google FDCPA 809, and it'll bring up it'll bring it up for you. It'll bring up the whole FDCPA, and you can just go down to 809 and you can read exactly what validation is. Now, there is one exception to that, and that's going to be with your medical collections. If you have a medical collection and you request validation, FTC opinion, and I'm going to put that right here. FTC opinion states that it should come directly from the original creditor or medical facility on their letterhead. That a simple itemization from the third-party collection agency or something typed up on their computer telling you the charges and all of the charges and the account number, balance, all of that, that is not enough. If it is a medical collection, it needs to come directly from the medical facility with their letterhead on it. So make sure you're requesting validation. Let's discuss when to pay third-party collections. Okay, with your third-party collections, we've already determined how to handle them if they're inside the statute of limitations or outside of the statute of limitations. Remember, you're going to have to look up the guidelines for your state to find out if an account is inside or outside of the statute of limitations. And the type of an account is also going to be a factor. Whether it is an open account, which is going to be your credit card account, whether it's an installment account, whether it is an auto loan, or whatever type of account it is. Remember, if it's outside of the statute of limitations, that just helps you determine how to kind of make a settlement on the account. Because remember, if it's outside the statute of limitations, they cannot sue you. so you have more leverage. Also remember, if it's outside the statute of limitations, you do not have to pay that account because they can't legally sue you for it. But if that's the only way to get that account off your credit reports, I'm gonna suggest making a settlement with that. Now, even after we go through all of that, say we went through validating the account is reporting correctly on our credit report. We know the account is ours. You know, we own up to the account. When should you pay it? If you have charge-offs reporting on your credit reports, I suggest handling your charge-offs first. And when I say charge-offs, I mean closed accounts that you haven't paid on within the last 6 months that are still with the original creditor that reports with a balance. If it's reporting with a balance and it's closed, you know, you haven't made a payment in 6 months or more, 180 days, the original creditor normally charges it off. And if you have charge-offs still with the original creditor, it's going to be best to pay those before you pay any third-party collection agency if you have charge-offs. And I say that because if you have charge-offs reporting on your credit report with balances that you haven't taken care of, the next step will be for the original creditor to sell that account to a debt buyer if they can't get the money from you. And say if a debt buyer purchases that account, that means that the original creditor no longer has ownership of that account. So that means that debt buyer is going to go and put that account on your credit reports, resulting in what, you guys? A double whammy. So in order to avoid a new collection, go ahead and handle all your charge-offs first, because paying the collection, that can wait. The damage is already done. If you have some charge-offs showing, you want to handle those first to keep them from doing more damage to your credit reports. If you have credit cards and your credit utilization is high, I suggest paying your credit utilization down before paying your collections if you're looking for a credit score increase, because getting your utilization down under the 30% threshold or the safety net, that will give you more points to your credit score than just paying a collection off. Because remember, when you pay a collection, that does not mean it will be deleted from your credit reports, and it will still report. Paying a collection also does not mean that your score will increase. It could do, one of three things. It could increase, decrease, or stay the same. So if you're looking for a credit score increase, pay those collections last. And if your utilization is high, pay your utilization down. If you don't have a credit card, take that money that you were going to use to pay those collections off and go ahead and get you a secured credit card with your bank or the bank of your choosing, because that will help increase your scores. But once you get that credit card, make sure you keep your balance low. And earlier, I mentioned that threshold with your credit cards and your credit utilization being 30%. You guys, that is the safety net. That is kind of what is shown. Like if you go over 30% of your credit limit, your credit scores will decrease drastically. But if you are getting ready to make a large purchase, or you want your credit scores to be in the 750s or higher, you want your credit utilization below 10%, but greater than 0%. Utilization less than 10%, but greater than 0% if possible. So handle your charge-offs, then your credit utilization, and then worry about your collections last if you are trying to get the most out of your credit scores. All right, you guys, now you should know exactly how you should be handling those third-party collections, whether they are with a third-party collection agency or a debt buyer, whether that account is outside of the statute of limitations or inside of the statute of limitations. You also know how you should be paying your collections and when you should be paying your third-party collections. You guys, I hope you got some value out of this video. I hope I was able to clear some things up for you because it is my goal to deliver as much educational value on credit as possible. If you have any questions or if I left something out, please, please, please comment down below. I try to answer each and all questions that come up on the channel. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If there's something that you would like for me to discuss in more detail, comment down below, you guys, so I can make you another video. I enjoyed you guys. Also, if you made it all the way to the end, you guys, I have a freebie for you. In the comments, I'm going to be leaving a link to a free validation letter that you can send to the third-party collection agencies to get those or to request validation for your third-party debt collectors. And with this letter, they're either going to stop their collection efforts, or they're going to validate the account, or they're going to ignore you. It's going to be one of the three. But whichever they do, then you will know how to proceed from the account from there. I will be giving you that tool as a gift for staying with me all the way to the end. I thank you and I appreciate you. Until next time.